Yeah, they have a really unique operations down there on Pine Ridge, Rosebud. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it is. My name is Sky Duchesneau. I'm executive director of Occupton. I am born and raised and enrolled Cheyenne River, Lakota, and so we're on one of the like north central reservations in South Dakota, and then that scenery was a few hours south. And so. Anyways, thank you so much for the introduction and excited to talk about a very recent success story that we released with it being like the Year of the Woman in Agriculture. So we've been financing native ag operations all across Indian country since 2019, and we've committed over $50 million in loans since then. So we've gotten to do like a whole gamut of things, but I really wanted to talk about Christine today. So she grew up in a small family operation, relatively small, and and she came to Occupton because she was wanting to get more involved in agriculture here on the res, and she was wanting to own her own cows, and she wasn't quite what I would consider first gen, but it hasn't necessarily been a long time family operation for her, and so she didn't quite have the family backing, the assets, the equity, and things like that that a normal bank would like to see. And so, but she wanted to be a rancher, and she had a lot of passion and stuff. And then, what was really unique about Christine was that she also wanted to start a manure spreading business. And we don't have one of those on the reservation. And when done properly, it's really, really great for the earth, the environment, and to be able to diversify our operation is also good just financially. And so you can read her whole success story on our website. But what was really cool and unique about her is she kind of came to us with a dream. She worked really hard with our loan officer, Finette, and kind of starting from scratch, especially with the manure spreading business, on top of the cows and figuring out, how can we do these responsibly and she was really nervous and applying for a loan, especially at a traditional financial institution, is probably going to be a no. They're like, you're doing too much at once. You don't have the assets, you don't have the equity, you don't have a parent to co-sign for you, and it probably wasn't going to happen. And we got to sit down with her, work start to finish, figure out her goals, and she's now in her second year of having cows. She's been operating her manure spreading business, and she's been staying very, very busy. I think she's since been trying to hire people, and she's been expanding her business. Like I said, it wasn't something that we had had here on the reservation before, so there was a large demand for it. And we had all the faith in the world in her work ethic, and we taught her, just kind of not even taught her, but helped her with the financial management part of it and checking in with her and different things like that. And she's just been off to the races and incredibly successful. And we're so, 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 so proud of her. But it's a very unique operation that we don't see get to be financed at other banks. So we're very, very proud of it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Skaya. Um, that's exciting, and it's great to hear how you've been able to finance something that's not normally financed. I'm going to turn to again to get us to the conversation portion. I representing Food Shed Capital. Indy Brahm is one of the founding team members and is the chief operating officer of Food Shed Capital, a CDFI loan fund and business advisor that provides flexible, affordable, and patient financing to small-scale regenerative farmers and food entrepreneurs. And in the Soil Wealth film, we did hear from your colleague, Michael Riley, who spoke about a capital firm collaboration with Rural Beacon Initiative, which we'll hear from next. But excited to have you here. Turn it over to you, Indy.
Great. Hey, y'all. It's nice to be here with you today. This text is looking very tiny on the screen, so if you can't read it, that's fine. I will give everyone the overview. As Christy said, we are a nonprofit CDFI, and we are focused on providing the capital and financial guidance that farmers need to build thriving, enduring businesses so they can feed their local communities and regenerate their land for the long haul. We do that in two primary ways, through non-extractive financing and financial partnership. We really believe that working alongside farmers requires patience and trust and relationship building. And so we have intentionally tried to design our process with a lot of flexibility in mind, and only working at the pace and speed that that trust and relationship will allow to happen. So, as a number of the farmers in the films that we just watched discussed, and that Sky's example illustrates perfectly, a lot of these small diversified producers that are really growing food for their communities, their businesses are inherently complex, they're financially non-standard, and that complexity oftentimes ends up looking like risk, when actually it just requires a little bit of hand-holding and understanding, patience, to really map out, okay, what is this business made of fundamentally, what's going on, what is likely to happen in the future, where is this business going, and then what is an appropriate kind of financing to support those aspirations. So that is really the gap that we are trying to fill, is the lack of those kind of financial products that are available. We primarily work in the Mid-Atlantic. We were founded in Charlottesville, working in Central Virginia, and we have expanded all up and down the East Coast, and then starting to do some work a little bit more nationally in other parts of the country. But I would say our work is primarily centered in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and also New York. So yes, Flying Plow Farm is an excellent example. They are in Rising Sun, Maryland. And Flying Plow and CSA is a 55-acre certified organic farm and regional food hub, co-owned and operated by farmers Sarah and Tom. And we were really excited to work with them because not only do they have deep farming experience, both of them have been farming for 20 plus years. The farm has grown from just a small CSA on rented land into a year-round operation serving over 600 CSA members, 2 farmers markets, and an on-farm retail stand. And they support all of that both through their own production, and then they also aggregate products from more than 50 regional farms. So they really serve as a central distribution node in the regional food system. And this is the kind of pathway that we're interested in supporting more farmers in being able to navigate and walk as they start their own operations, access affordable, flexible capital, and then be able to scale up to really meet a significant need in their communities. So a key constraint for this operation was high interest debt, which we see all the time and which really eats into the bottom line of the farm and their ability to reinvest. So the Food Shed Capital loan refinanced that high cost debt and supported further investment in the operation and infrastructure, and a little bit of working capital as well. That reduced annual debt burden, improved cash flow stability, and it allowed more earnings, of course, to remain within the business for reinvestment, and supported a little bit more owner's draw to reduce some of the burnout that's so common in small scale farming. For this loan in particular, and for all of our work, philanthropic support was absolutely crucial. It helped enable more favorable loan terms, supported all of that structuring work required to really understand the operation and align the financing with the farm's operating realities. So we were able to extend a loan at about a 3% interest rate, which generated about $15,000 in annual interest savings. And the result has been a more resilient operation. We made this loan, I think, early on last year, or maybe late 2024. And last week, we just got notice that Flying Plow has actually closed with Dirt Capital, who was also featured in one of the films, to acquire an adjacent farm property to their current property. So they now have additional acreage and land security. That also enabled them to secure housing that they had been using for the past 10 years for farm workers, access to a backup irrigation water source, all of the incredible things that land access and land security really can do. So it was a pleasure working with Sarah and Tom, and we look forward to doing more of this kind of work, deeply supported by philanthropy.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, it's been fun with Food Shed Capital. We've been collaborating recently with our FarmWise Hub work, and we've done some great outreach to land stewards as well. So it's been nice to have your collaboration. I'm now in digging in. I just want to, pull some threads back from the film. We saw a farmer in Kansas discuss his family's loss of land because of some of the racial barriers to accessing capital when the land transitioned into his ownership. This is shown in the film in the Midwest. It's in a free Black community in Kansas, but it's also a very common story in the South, where Croatan Institute is based and where our place-based partner, Rural Beacon Initiative is. You caught a glimpse of our next panelist, William Barber III, in our Soil Wealth film. And he's the founder and CEO of Rural Beacon Initiative, or RBI, a North Carolina-based social enterprise focusing on diversifying the economies of the future, including renewable energy and regenerative ag. William himself is also a land steward, a social entrepreneur, and capital collaborator. He's serving also as the Senior Director of Investments and Impact at the Coalition of Green Capital. And William and RBI are longstanding partners with Croatan Institute. So we're excited about this new initiative that we're about to launch, and I think he'll share a little bit about as well. So over to you, William.
Yeah, thanks so much, Christy, and thanks everyone for being on today. I'm really glad to be talking with you all. As mentioned, I'm the founder CEO of Rural Beacon. In our work, we work specifically to increase diverse ownership opportunities in regen ag and renewable energy supply chains. We accomplish this by deploying our sustainability hubs, which are place-based projects that serve as localized food and distributed energy systems. So we're kind of a self-described farmer plus, but our hubs are designed to be replicable and scalable. And our big vision, our big dream is to build a regional network of 12 of these hubs across the southeastern United States. We lead with the belief that rural communities are not only areas of need and impact, but are also regions with incredible opportunity for innovative climate and technological solutions. And we distinguish ourselves by taking a steel in the ground approach to community impact. So we know that programs are good. Education is great, not knocking that at all, but we believe that infrastructure is key to shifting outcomes, social outcomes, and we try to do our part in advancing projects for rural communities rooted in, as Christy said, economies of the future. So you saw our capital collaboration alluded to in the second film. In 2022, we created a capital stack with Foodshed Capital, Croatan Institute, and RBI, each participating, and we were able to purchase the 52-acre Free Union Farm parcel in Martin County, North Carolina. There's an image of it right there. This concept science plan. We say we are building a living laboratory. So one where innovation meets regeneration. The site itself is designed as a physical demonstration of the type of innovative projects that investments can catalyze in rural communities. And we utilize a unique mix of conservation finance, sustainable development, resilient community-based solutions to the climate crisis, to create a multi-component site where we are taking the best of what technological innovation has to offer, as well as the best of what regenerative practices has to offer. We say we're building a site where innovation, is meeting regeneration. In addition to the multi-component enterprises, the site is also going to serve as an immersive educational hub, where local community members and individuals seeking to enter the workforces of the economies of the future will have opportunities to witness the impact of emerging technologies and practices up close, as well as to be trained in their operation. We have worked with 2 national laboratories on the site, working with NREL's Clean Energy to Communities program on our agrivoltaic array design, as well as entering talks with Sandia Laboratories around partnering with their Boost Energy Innovation cohort. Can we jump to, yeah, thank you. So our story, is one that includes a cast of committed partners and a proven track record. So thankful for the friendship and partnership of Foodshed Capital as well as Croatan Institute. As was mentioned, working with these partners, we were able to secure a $125,000 land acquisition loan from Foodshed Capital. That was coupled and supported with a 5% owner equity from RBI and a 5% loan guarantee from Croatan Institute. Since 2022, that has now translated to over $2.5 million in support for RBI's team, as well as our sustainability pub, a nearly 20-to-1 return, including a recent $1 million cooperative agreement in 2024 that we were able to activate. So RBI and our partnering organizations see opportunity to refine and replicate this type of financial strategy for future projects, as well as for the hub itself. Um, One of the lessons learned in this capital collaboration, however, was seeing the gap, that many of the institutions that we expected to be positioned to do these type of transactions were actually unequipped, ill-positioned, or unwilling. Um, thank God for a food shed. That awareness of a gap in the ecosystem has led to additional collaboration between RBI and Croatan Institute in trying to meet the need and expand opportunity for more projects that strengthen community resilience, especially in the looming land crisis that we are currently facing as a nation. Trends show us, or data shows us, that in the next 15 years, we're expected to lose 370 million acres of farmland across the nation. And of course, that's going to be huge in terms of implications for food security, for local land ownership, distributed energy generation, et cetera, et cetera. So recently, we've launched the Resilient Southern Legacy and Nature Defense Fund, a joint venture of RBI and Croatan Institute that is designed to unlock a new land future. This is a blended investment vehicle that is seeking to help create a reality where regenerative farmers, foresters, and local stewards actually hold the power to shape thriving rural economies, rebuild ecological health, and protect landscapes that sustain us all. I know I'm coming up on time, so I'll try to be really quick here. But with the Resilient Southern Land Fund, we have a 5-year strategy where we want to start in North Carolina, where we have a really robust network across both organizations in terms of our land stewards. We then hope to expand to adjacent states in North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Georgia, working to raise $25 million over the course of 5 years. That would allow us to transition over 3,000 acres to regenerative practices or distributed energy projects, and then would eventually support land access and ownership for more than 25 farmers and land stewards. Eventually, we want to have the big vision of serving the entire southern region, working on our 3-step model that you see at the bottom: acquiring land, using patient capital to acquire land, transitioning with local land stewards, and working in the aggregate to regenerate these economies and ecosystems and making them more resilient.
Great. Thank you, William. I think we have some questions in the chat, and I know that the time is a little short, so I'm going to ask Holly if there are some that you'd like me to highlight.
Yeah, I received one just now, and folks who are on the line, feel free to put your questions in the chat. If we don't get to them live, we will send them to the speakers afterwards and send those in the follow-up materials. So don't let the time keep you from asking questions or putting your thoughts in the chat. But one question that I got that I think would be really interesting is, what does patient capital actually look like in practice, and what does it not look like? I'm happy to share about what we do at Occupton. So specifically, we can go up to 5 years interest only, and then we'll blend it out over 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it makes the most sense. But that up to 5 years interest only really allows for a lot of the profits to be reinvested back in the operation. And instead of just like extract from day one and like forcing you to make these extractive financial decisions, force you to make these extractive like decisions with the land and the soil management and different things like that. That's what patient capital looks like over here at Occupton. Is, like I said, up to 5 years interest only, and then we don't do a balloon, we blend it out after that, and we make sure to give you terms that help you succeed. So that like their success is our success, so we're not going to give them extra barriers. And what does it not look like? Anything that's extractive, anything that doesn't work, anything that's like pushing it. Because if we want long-term impacts and long-term sustainability, resilience, whatever you're looking for there, we need to make sure we have a long-term commitment as partners with our producers.
Yeah, I would certainly echo all of that. The long-term commitment, the relationship, and I think for us, a lot of that manifests as flexible servicing on the back end. Part of it is the relationship at the beginning before the loan has closed, but obviously once the loan has closed, there's a whole timeline of relationships still in place, of financial management. And if a farmer that we're working with is running into seasonal challenges, there's a cash flow issue, really making sure we have a system set up in place. So there's no penalty if a farmer needs to restructure, if they need to defer their payment, if we need to talk about how to manage some cash flow challenges. So for us, that's part of it. We offer a once a year, no questions asked, 1 month annual grace deferral. And then anytime restructure is needed or a deferral, we always have a loan officer who can get on the phone, talk about what's going on, and draw up a repayment schedule without any penalty to better meet the needs of what's going on the ground.
And I would just jump in and say, I ditto to a lot of that. Couple of things to add. I think, the longer term horizons, I would definitely flag, that recognizing that projects and including soil building and ecosystem restoration, as well as community ownership, takes time to mature. So thinking about that longer time horizons, I think, thinking about blended structures, so how do we leverage and combine different types of capital like grants, PRIs, concessionary debt, and equity to de-risk a lot of early stage work, and especially innovative projects like what we're trying to do with our sustainability hub, and then be able to crowd in larger capital later is a form of patient capital. And then I would say, lastly, trusting the operators and ownership for it. So, thinking about capital that, invest into teams that are deploying, these innovative projects and gives them room to execute rather than over constraining them with rigid benchmarks too early, as well as prioritizing structures that enable community stakeholding and wealth retention, not just project completion. In terms of what it doesn't look like, I think your typical short-term returns, looking at purely grant-dependent models that have no path to scale, those are useful for pilots. But of course, part of our model at RBI is stressing the strength of replication. And then I think, rigid underwriting that are based only on traditional metrics. Sometimes we have to get out of our own way.
So I want to ask just a quick round two. All of you all talked about technical assistance being a big portion of what you're doing with the work that you're doing to help support these groups that are often underserved. And so, and William, you talked about how the Sustainability Hub is going to be a place of immersive learning on the practices, as well as, connecting the land fund to support those land stewards. So what is the role of technical assistance and education? And I see some questions coming in around, what is the knowledge gap you're seeing of farmers that are seeking capital? So how are we addressing that? How do you see that? And I'll bunch that with another question, which is about, what is the best way to channel charitable dollars to catalyze the existing work, as so many orgs? I think maybe Indy, you mentioned that you were able to reduce the interest rates that you were charging. So it was, in addition to the technical assistance, you're able to also lower the cost of capital for those stewards. So maybe we could take a quick sentence or two about how can funders take a role in, investing in soil wealth.
Yeah, I mean, to dive in there, I think, kind of trying to take a bite at the first part of that, what is the gap? I think, funders should understand that technical assistance, especially when engaging in these communities, is not a nice to have. It's really the bridge, I think, between capital and outcomes, right? Like actually understanding how capital can be leveraged, what are the capital products that exist to actually get a land steward or a farmer or a forester to where they need to be. It's a big part of bridging that gap because a lot of people who are doing some of the most impactful work have not had the luxury of thinking about, how do you structure the capital stack to actually, get up and pay your team or, get the project done. So that's a huge gap to address. I think secondly, understanding that it is so key to understand that in terms of getting communities to lead, this is kind of from our infrastructure background, we have to make sure that we are getting communities to understand what it means to get projects to pencil, and what are the impacts that we should elevate. How should we talk about the work? How should we talk about the outcomes? I think is a part of technical assistance. And I think, if we really are serious about wanting resilience projects, regenerative ag, soil wealth, at scale, we have to invest not just in the land, but also in the people and the systems that know how to steward it, but may need some additional assistance in knowing how to, make capital flow.
I want to follow up on that. You said something really important, like putting pen to paper. So when I was thinking about a knowledge gap, and I was like, they don't really have like a knowledge gap, but I think a lot of it is like we are so used to, I just have to survive till next year. I just have to get through this growing season. I just have to, and so it's transitioning out of that like surviving to thriving, putting pen to paper. Where do I want to be in 5 years, and actually like instead of dreaming it, getting to do it and take those steps. I think that's kind of where I see that because when you said that, I was like, yes, exactly. And so that's like, it's not necessarily like a knowledge gap. It's just like kind of like reshifting their thinking, I guess, a little bit, and like letting them know like this is possible. We can move on from surviving to thriving because we're going to do things different, which allows them to operate differently. And then that segues right into your question about what funders can do. So on our fundraising journey, I'm just very cognizant about the capital we take in because I have to repay those terms to my producers. And so if we can just make sure we get the right kind of capitals from funders so that we can pass it on to our producers, our low interest rates, long terms, and then when there's available, we also offer like small equity building grants, succession planning grants, things like that, to help kind of be more comprehensive with just our direct loan capital. We all try to have supplemental activities as well.
I'll see if I can quickly wrap it up here. Maybe one way to answer both questions at the same time. This year, we launched a bookkeeping program to work with farmers, both in our portfolio and then also some referrals from some of our partner organizations to work with them on doing their books, produce reports, get a budget in QuickBooks. And our hope there is to experiment with one, how to provide the service to farmers in a way that really works for them. And two, start to learn and aggregate some of these learnings of as these businesses are growing and finding success, what are some of the lessons we can take from that, and have those lessons available to the next generation that's coming up looking for capital.
That's great. Thank you all. I know this is a short session, so we're going to do some wrap-up slides, but we really appreciate the time you all took to join us. And Holly, I'll turn it back. I think maybe I have a slide first. I think we're just going to wrap up, but there will be a recording, I believe, and eventually a set of resources that we're going to send, and we'll be sharing these questions, so maybe you can share the answers with the whole group, and our contact information as well. I just have a couple quick things from Croatan Institute side. Our FarmWise Hub is a nationwide accessible platform with a free course, again, in English and Spanish. So for those of you that are funding groups across the country that might be interested, we have a new cohort of bilingual English and Spanish office hours starting this week. So please share it, spread the word. It's been funded with some USDA 2501 work program, and we're hoping to expand beyond North Carolina to other states this year. And the next slide, if you enjoyed this event, we're hoping to do some more in-person ones. Our next one is coming up or we haven't locked it down, but in late November, Washington, D.C., or let me know if you are interested in exploring hosting another event.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then really quick on the SAFSF side, we will be sending all of this, the links, the question answers. Again, if you have a question that did not get answered, it is not too late to put it in the chat. I will pull those after this call and send it over to our speakers. But SAFSF, many of you are new to us, Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems Funders. We are a membership organization of funders. And so if you are a funder interested in this topic, investing in sustainable food and agriculture, we would love to have you. Here is a bit of an overview on member benefits. Claire is on the line, drop some links in the chat as well, but we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Several of our members have either been mentioned in today's presentations or are here on the call. But something that we have coming up that's another continuing education experience for you is our upcoming SAFSF forum. I know Christy will be there with us as well. This is in Savannah, Georgia, June 22nd to the 25th. And it is the only gathering for diverse capital partners across philanthropy and investment, working across food and agriculture. in the United States. And we have a really incredible program lined up, really rooted in the South. And we're getting really excited. It's only 2 months away, and we would love to have you. So that information is in the chat as well. And then Christy and I are available for any questions. So you can see our emails here. Again, this will be sent in the follow-up materials. But we really appreciate all of you taking the time to be with us today and for watching the films. I hope it was a nice break from some screen time for a little bit for you. Again, if you have any questions for our speakers, please put them in the chat and we will send them on over. But with that, thank you all so much for your time, and we hope to see you in another virtual space here soon.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.